Okay, so these were your notes from yesterday on systems of equations. I'm not going to be going over these all the way today. I just want to briefly go over it. But for systems of equations, it's just like if you can graph one line in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and you can graph more than one line. It's just putting more than one line on one graph. And you can see the different types of solutions here. For our types of solutions, we have our intersecting lines where they cross and they meet in the middle. So right there, that would be your solution. And it would be just one solution, one coordinate point, x comma y. Then you also have parallel lines. And parallel lines, they never touch. They have the same slope. And slope is m. And your solution for that is no solution. You can write the word no solution, or you can literally just do the 0 with a slash going through it. And then you also have same line, and that your answer would actually be written as the infinity symbol. It's like a sideways 8. So this is where it's the lines are coinciding, or it's just the same equation. It's just the same equation. So it's two lines stacked on top of each other. You can see the first one here, and then the second one just right on top of it. But it's kind of hard to put two lines on top of each other to just visually see it. So as long as you know that there's two lines there, then perfect. But your steps for doing this, you follow the same 3 steps every single time. You rewrite your equation in slope-intercept form, and remember that's y equals mx plus b. Then you graph the line, first plotting your y-intercept b, then using your slope m to get your second point, and then you identify your solutions using the above. If it's intersecting, parallel, same line, you can write your different solutions for that there. And then there's a couple of example questions to kind of see how to go through and write your answer for all of these. But those were your notes for yesterday. I'm going to be going over the assignment for today. And if you're able to print it out, awesome. Just follow along with me. If you already did it or already attempted doing some of them, that's fine with me. Just double check, make sure you did it correct. And if you made any mistakes, just fix it. So if you have it printed out, perfect. You can write on the paper, obviously. But if you did not print it out, you can always just draw your own graph. And for drawing your own graph, all you need is the y-axis, the x-axis, and then you can draw your little tick marks on there. If you're putting it on regular piece of paper, you can just draw your little lines, but make it bigger so you can see it and put your lines on there and everything. Okay, so today this is your assignment. I'm going to go through and do a couple of them just to get you guys started, since I didn't get to do the notes with you guys all the way through. And then I will let you guys know at the end of the video which ones you guys need to do on your own and for submitting it later today. And when I'm going over this, if I go too fast, you can write something in the chat because I have my other computer next to me here. I can slow down, or if you have a question, you can put it in the chat so then I can answer it for everyone. Or at the end, once I'm all finished as a group, I'll stay on for a few more minutes if you want to ask me an individual question on this same recording or meeting, or you can wait till my office hours later today if you ever have any questions. I'm always available for you guys. I want to make sure you guys get this and totally understand it. Okay, so the first one we're going to get started with today, let's read our directions. It's solve each systems of equations by graphing. Clearly identify your solution. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in so we can see a little bit better here. So our first one, number 1, is the first one we're going to be doing together here. We have our 2 equations. Our first one is y equals 2 over 3x minus 1. And when you're graphing slope-intercept form, I always like to write out, if you're ever struggling with graphing slope-intercept form, or since we just had that long break and you need to refresh your memory, I like to write out m equals and b equals, so we can identify what is m and what is b. M is your slope and b is your y-intercept. And if my equation is, y equals mx plus b. What is in the same spot as m? You can write it in the chat. Is it the fraction or the -1? What is in the same spot as m? You can write it in the chat. Awesome, I see the 2/3, fraction, 2/3, that is correct. Same spot as m is your 2/3. So that means the same spot as b. What is b? That is -1. And then from there, we can start graphing it. And when you're graphing slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, in case you forget, the first thing you put on your graph is b, your y-intercept. That goes on the y-axis. That's the line that's going up and down. And our y-intercept for number 1, our first equation, it's a -1. We have our positive y's are up top and the negative y's are down below. So -1. Here's my y-intercept of -1. And then from there, we're going to use our slope, m, 2/3. And our slope is rise over run. So from my first point that I already put on there, the y-intercept of -1, I'm going to rest my pencil on that dot, and then I'm going to go up 2, and then to the right, 1, 2, 3. Then I can draw my dot. From that second dot, I'm going to continue, and I'm going to draw a couple more dots. I'm going to go up 2 to the right, 1, 2, 3, and draw my dot. And when you're graphing and plotting your points and using your slope, if you can draw more dots, keep going. You draw as many dots as you can, because the more dots you have, the better it is and the straighter your line will be, especially if you don't have a ruler or something straight edge to draw your lines. So I'm going to keep on going up 2 to the right, 1, 2, 3. And then I can't go up 2 to the right 3, because then I would just be guessing to see where my next dot would go. So let's go back to the first point, and we're going to do the opposite of up and to the right. The opposite of up and to the right is down and to the left. So down 2 to the left 3, and then continue down 2 to the left 3, down 2 to the left 3. Once you got a bunch of dots on your graph, if you have a ruler, you can use your ruler to draw your straight line. Or I'm not sure if you guys all got a student ID at the beginning of the year, but you can always use the edge of your student ID, or if you have an old one, or anything that has a straight edge, like a book or a folder, anything like that, you can use that to draw your straight line. And when you draw your straight line, put it all the way through the entire graph, from one side to the other side, all the way through. That was just our first equation, the y equals 2/3x minus 1. Now I need to draw my second one, y equals -x plus 4. And again, I'm going to write m equals b equals, where m is the number in front of x. In the chat, I want you to write, what is the number in front of x for this equation here? What is the invisible number in front of x? There's an invisible number. You can go ahead and write it in the chat. So if you don't see a number there, you have an invisible number, and that invisible number is 1. Perfect. Awesome. Good job, guys. So our slope here, there's a negative sign. So our slope is a -1. We just know our number is a 1 because that's our invisible number. And your slope, remember, it's a rise over run, so you want it to be a fraction. So you can always turn any number into a fraction by putting it over another invisible 1. So that's going to be your slope for our second equation. And then our y-intercept b is +4. And from there, we can start graphing it. Again, we follow the same steps. First, do your y-intercept, and that's a +4, and that's going to go on the y-axis, the line that's up and down. The positive is up, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's my y-intercept of +4. And then my next step is to use my slope m, -1/1. And if it's a negative slope, you're going to go down 1 to the right 1, draw your dot. Down 1 to the right 1, draw your dot. Down 1 to the right 1, draw your dot. And once I see that I have two dots on top of each other, I like to circle it so it stands out to me so I know that's my solution. And from there, I already know my solution, so I'm not going to draw any more dots. I'm just going to go ahead and draw my line. But if you want to draw more dots, you're more than welcome to do that. Just most importantly, make sure your line goes through the entire graph, all the way through. So from the notes yesterday, are these two lines, are they intersecting? Are they parallel, or is it the same line? Go ahead and write that in the chat. Are they intersecting, parallel, or same line? Write that in the chat. Let's see, intersecting, awesome, good job. So these two lines are intersecting means that they cross and they are intersecting. They're meeting at this point here that I circled, and then our solution is going to be that coordinate point, that ordered pair. And to find your ordered pair, your solution, you start in the middle. Let me get a different color. I'll do green. You're starting in the middle here, and then you move left or right. Our goal is to end up at that dot. So I'm first going to move to the right. 1, 2, 3. And if you move to the right, it's a +3. And then we're going to move up or down. For this one, we need to move up 1. And if you move up, that's a +1. So for number 1, your solution, your answer would be 3, 1. The ordered pair, the coordinate point of 3, 1. And they're both positive. Any questions so far on that? You can write it in the chat if you need me to go over anything. But I'm going to be doing a couple of questions. I think there's 4. I'm going to be going over 4 graphing questions and then those last 3 questions on the second page. All right, so the next one we're going to go on to is number 2. All right, so for number 2, we're going to follow those steps from the notes yesterday. Step 1, write the equation in slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. Let's go ahead and do that first for our first equation, the x minus y equals 7. So we're going to need to rewrite and redo this equation so it's in slope-intercept form. So we need to get it to say y equals. When you have an equation, when you need to rewrite it, you're always going to do is move the x term to the other side. When you move something to the other side of the equation, you have to do the opposite operation. This x is positive, so the opposite of positive is negative or minus x on both sides, so it cancels out. And then I bring down this negative y, bring down my equal sign. And then this 7 minus x. They cannot be combined because they're not in the same family. I like to call them families. But the x, there's an invisible 1 here, and then it has the x, the variable term x here. This 7 does not have a variable, so I cannot combine them. I need to put them side by side next to each other like my equation here. The one you want to write first is your term with the x. So first is my negative 1x, then the positive 7. So I write plus 7. Okay, it doesn't say y equals yet. It currently says negative y equals. So we need to get rid of that negative sign. And if it helps, you can put your invisible number there. We all know our invisible number is 1. So it's a negative 1y. So if you have your number touching the variable like this here, negative 1y, what's happening in between? Is it negative 1 plus y, minus y, times y, or divided by y? What is that operation happening between the negative 1 and the y's? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Go ahead and write that in the chat. What's happening between the negative 1 and the y? Is it negative 1 plus y, negative 1 minus y, negative 1 times y, or negative 1 divided by y? So I saw divide, multiplication, multiplying. See a couple more people typing. So if you have a number and a variable touching like this is multiplication. There's an invisible multiplication sign in between. So it's read as -1 times y. So awesome, good job if you got that. Thank you for trying. If you got it wrong, if you got it wrong, that's okay. I appreciate you trying. As long as you're giving effort, you're just gonna keep getting better. So in order to get rid of that -1, we're gonna do the opposite of multiplication, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So divide by -1 on both sides. And when you're doing it on the right side, let's split it up. I'm going to put divide by -1, divide by -1 on the right side. We're going to split it up to help us with simplifying later. So these -1s cancel out. I bring down the variable y and my equal sign. And then we have a -1 divided by -1 here. Negative divided by negative is positive, and then 1 divided by 1 is 1. So it's a positive 1x. Or another way you can write it is just x, because we know the 1 is invisible. And then on the right side here, we have a positive 7 divided by -1. Positive divided by negative is negative, and then 7 divided by 1 is 7. Now it's in slope intercept form. You can write out your m equals and your b equals, where m is 1 and you want it to be a fraction, so I put it over another invisible 1, and b is -7. Okay, in the chat, I want you to write, what do I put on the graph first? Do I put m on the graph first, my slope, or do I put b, the y-intercept, on my graph first? What do I put on the graph first, m or b? My slope or the y-intercept? Awesome, good job. I see lots of correct answers. B, correct. We're going to put that on our graph first. So lots of answers. Awesome. So B, my y-intercept, is -7. Again, that goes on the y-axis, the line that goes up and down. Up is +7, or y, my bad, positive y, and down is -y. And for this one, it's a -7, so I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's my y-intercept of -7. And then my step 2 is to use my slope, 1 over 1. From that first dot, I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1, draw my dot, and keep going up 1 to the right 1, draw my dot, up 1 to the right 1, and just keep on going until you have a bunch of dots. The more dots you have, the better. And then you can draw your line. Remember to go all the way through the entire graph. If you don't have a ruler, remember you can use like anything that has a straight edge, a book, a folder, an ID, which I'm sure you guys have from last school year. Okay, so that first one is done. Let's go ahead and do our second one. X minus y equals -4. And again, we need to first put it in slope intercept form. We're going to follow those same steps like we did from the last equation. So first, I'm going to move this positive x to the other side. So doing the opposite operation, minus x on both sides. So it cancels out. Bring down the -y equals, and then I have a -4 and a -x. Can they be combined? Yes or no? Write that in the chat. Can they be combined? Yes or no? You can write that in the chat. My question, can the -4 and the -x be combined? And for that, the correct answer is no, they cannot be combined. So I'm going to write them side by side. First is my x term, the -x. Then my -4 side by side. Okay, we have one more step. I needed to get this invisible -1 to the other side. We know that's multiplication. Opposite of multiplication is division, so divide by a -1. And we're going to split it up on the right side here. So these -1s cancel out. I bring down my variable y equals, we know there's an invisible 1. -1 divided by -1. Negative divided by negative is positive. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Here's my variable x. And then on my next simplifying, negative 4 divided by negative 1. Negative divided by negative is positive, and then 4 divided by 1 is 4. So now let's write out our information. M equals B equals, M is 1, B is 4. And first, we're going to plot the y-intercept B, positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, that goes on the y-axis, the line that goes up and down. Positive is going to be up and negative is down. And then we can use our slope M. We want it to be a fraction, so I put that over another invisible 1. And from that first dot, we're going to go up 1 to the right 1, draw your dot. Up 1 to the right 1, draw your dot. Keep going a couple more times. And then you can draw your line. Remember, use any sort of straight edge that you have. And when you draw your line, go through the entire graph as much as you can, all the way through from one side all the way to the other side. And for these two lines here, write in the chat, are they intersecting, are they parallel, or are they the same line? Write that in the chat, please. Are they intersecting, parallel, or the same line? Awesome. I see lots of people said parallel, and that is correct. So if they are parallel, is my solution, do I have one solution, no solution, or infinite solution if they are parallel? Write that in the chat. Do I have one solution, no solution, or infinite solution? Write that in the chat, please. Awesome. I see lots of no solution, none. That's the same as no solution. Fine with me. Perfect. Awesome. And for that one, the answer is, you guys are correct. It is no solution. You can write it out as a 0 with a slash going through it, or you can actually write out no solution. I want you guys to know that these are the same thing, the 0 with the line going through it. That is the same thing as no solution. You can write either one of these down for your answer, because that is the same thing. I just wrote both of them down so you guys can see it. Awesome, good job, guys. Next one we'll do together is number 3. So number 3, we have our first equation here, y equals x minus 1. Is this one in slope-intercept form? Yes or no? Write it in the chat. Is this in slope-intercept form? Yes or no? Y equals x minus 1. I'll rewrite it. Y equals x minus 1. Is this equation in slope-intercept form? Yes or no? Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. I see yes, yes. Someone's trying to say yes. Awesome. I see a no. So this y equals x minus 1, it is, the answer would be yes, it is in slope-intercept form. First we have, first we have our y. Let me get a different color so you can see it here. We have our y, and then our equal sign. We've got our equal sign, and then we have m. So m is the number in front of x. There's my m. Then we have our x, and then this plus sign, it can be a plus sign or a minus sign. It doesn't matter. Plus sign or minus sign, either one. And then we have b. There it is. So our y equals mx plus b. Everything lines up. So yes, it is in slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and write out our m equals b equals where m equals, what's our m here? What is the m, our slope? Go ahead and write that in the chat, please. What is our slope m for this first equation? Y equals x minus 1. Our slope m. What is m? Same spot as m. And for this one, it's an invisible number. Our invisible number we know is 1. But the thing that's in the front of x is m. So the number that's in front of x is just 1. I know a lot of people always like to write for their slope, they like to write the number and the variable x, but that's actually incorrect. You only want to write just the number that's in front of x. So for this one, number 3, our first equation m, our slope is just positive 1. And then we can write out b. Our y-intercept is negative 1. You want to get the sign in front of it here. So there's my y-intercept of negative 1. And then we can start graphing it. First, plotting b, the y-intercept of negative 1 on the y-axis. We have our positive y and our negative y. And for this one, it's a negative 1, so I'm going to go down 1. So there's my y-intercept of negative 1. And then step 2 is to use our slope m. You want it to be a fraction, so I put my 1 over another invisible 1. So from that dot, I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, and keep on going. Couple more times. And if you want, if you ever run out of space, you can do the opposite. Go back to your first dot. I know I didn't run out of space, but let's just pretend. Go back to your first dot. The opposite of up and to the right is down and to the left. So down and to the left, down, left. That's the same thing. You can draw your line all the way through the entire graph. So there's my first equation. Now let's go ahead and work on the second one. We have x plus 4y equals 16. So this one, we need to actually put it in slope-intercept form. So this one's like number 2, where we had to fix our equation. And when you have to fix your equation, these are all going to be, if you're fixing them, they're written in standard form. So you're always going to move the x term to the other side first. So this one is a positive x. The opposite of positive is negative or minus x on both sides, so they cancel out. Then I bring down my positive 4y equals, and this 16 minus x, we know they cannot be combined, so I'm going to put them side by side. Which one should I put first? It looks more like my y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. Which one should I put first? The 16 or the negative x? Which one should I put first when I'm putting them side by side? The 16 or the negative x? So I see a negative x, see lots of people typing. Negative x. Wait a couple more seconds, let you guys finish typing. I see a 16. So you got both of them there. So for this one, in order to get it to look like y equals mx plus b, the term with the x needs to be written first. So for this one, the correct answer would have been the negative x gets written first. You always want to put your x first when you're putting them side by side. So then it looks more like y equals mx plus b, your slope-intercept form equation. So if you wrote negative x, awesome, good job. That's okay if you did not get that right. You tried, and I appreciate that. So that means our second one that we're going to write is our positive 16. Okay, we have one more step. I need to get rid of the 4 that's next to this y. We know there's an invisible multiplication sign in between. The opposite of multiplication is division, so divide by 4 on both sides. When you're doing it on the right side, make sure you split it up. Put it under the first term, divide by 4, and the second term, divide by 4. So these 4's cancel out. I bring down the y equals. If it helps, you can put your invisible 1 in front of the x so you can see that number. It's always nice to actually see them instead of just knowing in your head, yeah, I know there's an invisible 1, just write it down. So our first fraction here, we have a -1 divided by 4. I cannot simplify that anymore, so I'm going to rewrite -1 over 4. And then I bring down the x. Don't lose that x. Lots of people always forget to bring that down. Make sure you copy it down. And then my second fraction, the 16 divided by 4, I can simplify that. I can divide. And 16 divided by 4, what is the answer? Go ahead and put that in the chat. What is 16 divided by 4? Write that in the chat, please. My question, what is 16 divided by 4? Go ahead and write that in the chat, please. I see 4, 4, 4, and you guys are correct. It is a positive 4. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and start graphing. And we have our m equals and our b equals. Awesome. Good job, guys. So our m for this one, the number that's in front of x, remember m does not have x in it. That's just that number. For this one, it's already written as a fraction, -1 over 4. And for m, if it's already written as a fraction, that's actually better for you since you don't have to change it. It's already a fraction. That means b is +4. And then we can start graphing. First, putting b, my y-intercept of +4 on the graph first. So on my y-axis, the line that goes up and down, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can use my slope, -1 over 4. And it's a negative slope, so from that first dot, I'm going to go down 1 and to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see here those 2 dots are crossing, but I'm just going to draw a couple more dots. Down 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And since my 2 dots are on top of each other, I just like to circle it so it stands out to me. That helps me finding my solution later a little bit quicker. And then once you've got a couple of dots, you can draw your line through the graph, go all the way through the entire graph. And these 2 lines, they are intersecting, they cross. And the point where they intersect, where they meet, is right here. That is the solution. What is that ordered pair solution for number 3? What is the solution? I want you to write it out as x, y, but instead of x and instead of y, I want you to put numbers. Go ahead and put that in the chat, please. Write down the solution. It'll look like this, but you will have numbers instead of x and y. And I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit better. Go ahead and write down the solution. I see 4, 3, 4, 3. Awesome. Anyone else? 4, 3. Perfect. And you guys are correct. The answer for this one here is, let me get a different color. It is, whoops, parentheses, 4, 3 parentheses. Just make sure when you do this, I'm not sure if you just didn't know how to type it, that's okay. But whenever you're writing it on paper, make sure you have the parentheses there as well. Parentheses 4, 3 parentheses for your solution. And remember to find your solution, you start in the middle. First, you move left or right. And for this one, we move to the right 4. So that's a +4. And then you go up or down. For this one, we're going up 1, 2, 3. So it's a +3. So that's how we got our solution for number 3. Okay. All right, let's do this last graphing question together, and then we'll go back and answer those last 3 questions on the other side. All right, so our first equation here, 5x plus 2y equals 4. Let's fix this and put this in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So first I'm moving this x term, the positive 5x, to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to do the opposite operation. The opposite of positive 5x is negative 5x, or minus 5x on both sides, so it cancels out. Bring down my positive 2y equals, and the 4 and negative 5x, we know they cannot be combined, so I'm going to put them side by side. First is my x term, the negative 5x. Then my constant, the term that does not have a variable, my positive 4. Now I need to get rid of that 2 that's in front. We know this is red. We read it as 2 times y. So we're going to do the opposite and divide by 2 on both sides and split it up over here on the right. Divide by 2, so those cancel out. Now I have my y equals this first fraction, negative 5 divided by 2. We cannot simplify. This is as simplified as it can be, so I'm just going to rewrite negative 5 over 2. Sometimes you can simplify, sometimes you can't. For this one, it's already simplified, so I just rewrote it. Make sure you bring down the x, don't lose it. And then my second fraction, 4 divided by 2, is positive 2. Now it's in slope-intercept form. We have our m equals b equals, and we can start graphing it, where m is negative 5 over 2, and b is positive 2. Let me zoom out a little bit. And first putting on our graph is our y-intercept b of positive 2. And remember, if it's a positive y, it's going to go up. If it's a negative y, it goes down here. And for this one, it's positive, so I go up 1, 2. Here's my y-intercept of positive 2. And then I can use my slope m. From that dot, we're going to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 2, 1, 2. So here's my next dot. From that first dot, I went down 5 to the right 2. Now for my second one, I'm going to do it again. Down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, 1, 2. And I would say keep on going, but you're going to run out of space. I don't want you guys to ever guess. So if you ever run out of space, you just do the opposite. Go back to that first dot and let's do the opposite. The opposite of down and to the right is up and to the left. So I'm going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the left, 1, 2. And I can't go anymore. So that's as many dots as I can put on my graph without guessing. I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines. And then we'll start graphing our second equation. We have 9x plus 2y equals 12. What do I need to move to the other side of the equation first? Go ahead and write that in the chat. What do I need to move to the other side of the equation? What's my first step? What is my first step to get this equation written in slope-intercept form? If you look at my first equation, you can see what we did there. Go ahead and write in the chat, what's the first thing I should do to this equation, this new one, to get it in slope-intercept form? I see minus 9x on both sides and a minus 9x. Anyone else? I see a couple people typing. So when comparing it to our first equation that we did, if you have an equation in standard form, like this one here, you're always going to move the x term to the other side. And for this one, since it's a positive 9x, you're going to do the opposite. So minus 9x on both sides. If you said that, awesome, good job. Those canceled out. Bring down your positive 2y equals, and then we have a 12 minus 9x. They cannot be combined. So I'm going to put them side by side. First is the negative 9x, then the positive 12. Because you want it to look most like y equals mx plus b. You want it to look like that equation, so that's why I put the x first. Now I'm going to get rid of this 2, divide by 2, and split it up on the right side. So these 2's cancel out. Now I have my y equals this first fraction, -9 divided by 2. I cannot simplify. It's as simplified as it can be. So I'm just going to rewrite -9 over 2. And then I bring down the variable x. Don't lose it. And then my second fraction, this 12 divided by 2. I can simplify. 12 divided by 2 is +6. Now, is this equation in slope-intercept form? Is this equation here in slope-intercept form? Yes or no? Go ahead and write that in the chat. Is this in slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. You can write a yes or no. Is it in slope-intercept form? And I see lots of yeses, and the correct answer is yes, it is in slope-intercept form. So let's write out. We have m equals b equals. Awesome. Good job, guys. So m is the number in front of x. Remember, it does not include x. It's just that number. So that's our fraction, -9 over 2. And then b is the +6. Now we can start graphing. Let me zoom back out. First, plotting the y-intercept of +6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then using our slope from this dot, it's -9 over 2. So I'm going to go down 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then to the right, 2, 1, 2. You can see there's my dot. They're intersecting here. So I'm just going to circle it so it jumps out to me. And I'm going to use my ruler to draw my line all the way through the entire graph. And then we can see our solution for this one. You start in the middle, you're going to the right, 1, 2. So it's a +2, comma, and then down 1, 2, 3. If you go down, that's a -3. So for this one, your solution is 2, comma, -3. Oops. All right, so what you guys are going to do for your assignment, I'm not going to have you do all of these questions, only a couple of them. I think the last few, I think you only have to do 3 of them on your own. Yeah, 3 of them on your own. The next questions that you're going to do on your own are number 5. You're going to do number 5, 7, and 9. You're doing number 5, 7, and 9. So you're going to do those 3 on your own. You should also have numbers 1 through 4 finished, because we just did all of those ones together. And then your assignment is to do numbers 5, 7, and 9 on your own. You're not going to do those last 6, 8, and 10. You're not going to do those. If you want to and you want extra practice, you can do that. Then I'm actually going to have you guys do the last few questions, 1, 2, and 3. Let's just do those really quickly. Like, get those all done and over with. Those last 3 questions down here. If a system of linear equations has one solution, what does this mean about the 2 lines? So one solution from the notes. One solution, are they intersecting, parallel, or same line? For one solution, are they intersecting, parallel, or same line? You can write that in the chat. And for this one, they are intersecting. Okay, awesome. Our next question. If a system of linear equations has no solution, what does this mean about the 2 lines? No solution. Are they intersecting, parallel, or same line? And no solution. Awesome. Good job. They are parallel. And our last one, if a system of linear equations has infinitely many solutions, what does this mean about the 2 lines? Are they intersecting, parallel, or same line? And for that last one, awesome. It's same line, or you can write coinciding. Coinciding. I just like to write same line because that's a more common phrase that we would use. So your assignment today, just do those last 3 questions, numbers 5, 7, and 9. And that's going to be it for today's assignment. And I think Ms. McCarthy had you guys just submit pictures previously. So please go ahead and follow that same pattern. Submit the picture on Schoology showing all of your work. And if you have any questions, I'll be here for a few more minutes. And my office hours are from 10 to 11 today, and then from 1 to 3. So if we're all finished and you have no questions for me, you can go ahead and log out and get those last 3 questions finished. And then that is it for today. But if you have questions, I will stay here for a few more minutes. And you guys did awesome. I really appreciate you. Made my first meeting with you guys very exciting and very good. So thank you guys. Have a good day. And then I will let you know our next meeting. Awesome. Bye, guys. Thanks, guys. You have a good day as well. Let me know if you have any questions. I will be here. So the questions you're doing for your assignment on this one, you're doing on your own numbers 5, 7, and 9. The ones that I circled here, 5, 7, and 9. Those are the only questions you have to do on your own. The rest we did together.